the Nintendo Switch 2, right? That number two, let me tell you, that number two is the most anti-Nintendo thing imaginable. This is literally our first time for Nintendo. And you know what? I'm very happy for it. Okay, so let's just get that out there. Hello, everybody. I'm Mr. Square here, and now we're gonna talk about the hot topic right now, which is the Nintendo Switch 2. What do I think of it? What I think it's gonna be the future of it? Do I really think, how it's gonna do throughout this generation and all that stuff? And a little bit of a recap because there's something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. Okay, so the Nintendo Switch has just been shadow dropped. Yeah, just this morning. I literally woke up and I saw the trailer. Initially, I was gonna do a reaction, but my audio messed up and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna make a video, about my thoughts about this topic, right? So the Nintendo Switch 2. What do I think about it? Visually and all that kind of stuff. I think the Switch 2. Okay, sorry, the camera is that. Okay, so what I think about the Switch 2, well, I mean, it's just looks like the Switch, except it's taller, right? I mean, it didn't really look like it was wider, right? But it looks like it's taller. The Joy-Cons, now they insert into the system instead of sliding down the system. I'm gonna be honest, I kind of like the old way better. And it's a bit of a shame because that means I'm gonna have to wait for the next mobile pads for the Switch 2 because these Joy-Cons follow the same philosophy as the previous ones, where they're flat from the back. And I cannot do that. I need grip. That's why I bought the mobile pads, because I just couldn't play on my Switch anymore because it will hurt my hands because the surface was flat. I needed some grip. And I bought the mobile pads and I started playing like crazy on my Switch. I mean, I like the idea that now like the red and blue are sort of the accent colors instead of the main colors of the Joy-Con, and the Joy-Cons are now black. I think that's really nice. I mean, I really wish the Joy-Con there was like they showed like an alternative to a Joy-Con that has a D-pad. That is something that really bothers me that Nintendo didn't implement. Just you can just buy a shell and put in a D-pad, but why not have an official option? It feels like it will be so easy. And it's not like Nintendo doesn't know that D-pad is necessary. There's a reason why the Pro Controller has it. There's a reason why the Switch Lite has it. It's because they know the D-pad is necessary for some games. So so yeah, the explanation is it's Nintendo. Every time Nintendo does something that pisses you off, that is the answer. It's Nintendo. Everybody uses it because we all know it to be true. The Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible, which is predictable. I remember a video a long time ago. I don't remember who did it. I think it was like Nintendo Live or Game Explain. Just let me know in the comments if you see this video. Who was it from the two? But I remember one of them making a video about how backwards compatibility it wouldn't really be necessary on the Switch because we will still buy it, right? It's not really like a deal breaker. And first of all, I disagree, but that's not that's not the main thing. That's not the point. The thing is, you just cannot not have backwards compatibility, and we've seen that this generation. I mean, just think about it. The Xbox One is still getting games this year, and it's probably going to continue to get games next year. And the PS5 is almost 5 years old, and the Xbox One is still getting games. You see how insane that is? Yes, I know that people are gonna talk about COVID this, COVID that. No, 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 guys. Let's just accept it. This is the current state of gaming. You just can't ditch a bunch of people who still own a PS4, who still own an old system, and pour everything in the new system. You just can't. Especially because, let's be real, the generational jumps are only getting smaller, and I'm gonna talk about that later. And it just doesn't make sense to uh, you know, just abandon an entire fandom in favor of a new system. We're no longer in the 90s, early 2000s. This didn't even. Here's the thing. Like I said, I mentioned earlier about how COVID, forced the life of the the PS4 and the Xbox One to be longer than it should have been. But the reality, guys, this has been happening for a while. I mean, just think about the previous generation, how the 360 and the PS3 were still getting games for like the first 2 to 3 years. And then think about the DS to the 3DS. I mean, the 3DS was almost a failure because the DS was still getting tons of games, right? So this is something that is just present in gaming, is not going away. I mean, that is something that Nintendo is completely aware of. Let's be real. And so yeah, backwards compatibility is not going. I wonder if it's gonna be through emulation. I really hope it's just plug and play. Like it just the games just run natively on the Switch 2 and just plug them and play them. And same with the Switch 2 games. I really hope plug and play it stays in the Switch branding forever. I because if that is the case, then the only physical games that I'm gonna own are gonna be the Switch games. And we're gonna have a direct where we're gonna have more information. Maybe they're gonna show their Pro controller. Hopefully, if they do have a D-pad Joy-Con, they will show it. Please, Nintendo, just make that thing happen. It's gonna be April 2nd, I think. Yeah, I think it was April 2nd. Yeah, I'm not gonna like double check right here. So that is it. I mean, there really wasn't much information. Many people are complaining that, oh my God, they pressured Nintendo with the leaks to show this early. Bro, who gives a fuck? Nobody cares. Like, don't cry for Nintendo. It's like they've been trying to play mysterious, but let's be real. Most of this stuff is predictable. Oh, that's one thing that I want to talk about, right? So, like, they tease that the Joy-Cons are gonna have like a mouse functionality. And we made fun of it, but that could be a big factor into making FPS or just shooters in general come back to the Switch, right? It could play a big factor on that. But okay, besides that, and also it could mean that Mario Paint 2 will finally be a thing. Okay, so besides that, I haven't really looked at a lot of leaks of what more or less the specs of the Switch is gonna be because I don't understand that shit. I'm a retard. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, I may look like a nerd, but I'm a fucking retard when it comes to those specs because those things bore me to hell. I just built a PC and I just went through a guide to make that happen. I didn't really try to get smart or anything. Anyways, but what I did look at is that the Switch 2 is likely going to be somewhere between the PS4 Pro and the Xbox Series S. And guess what? That is fine. I predicted that is what they needed, and they're going to be just fine. You know why? Because of what I mentioned earlier. The gaming landscape is not going to allow third-party devs to just abandon the Switch 2 anymore because they're still making games for the PS4 and the Xbox One. So it doesn't make sense that they don't make games for the Switch. And the thing about for the Switch 2, sorry. And the thing about it is many devs like with the Switch, let's put things into perspective recently, right? Why is the Switch 2 is gonna be a success? First of all, the Switch 2 has crazy momentum because of the Switch success. The Wii U was a massive failure, and everybody just wanted to get away from it. And it was a massive failure for many reasons. First of all, the Wii branding died in 2012. Whether you like the Wii or anything, I like the Wii. My favorite game of all time, Xenoblade One, is on the Wii. But the reality is, the Wii died in 2012, right? The Wii brand as a whole. And so when the Wii U came out, it just didn't have an impact because it was part of the same branding. And then people didn't even know that it was another console because they just thought it was an add-on to the Switch, right? They just thought the tablet was something that you buy and you just start playing with the Switch or something. They didn't understand. Many people didn't even understand that it was a brand new system. Many people just wanted them to make a normal system or whatever. And it just and then that just led to more gaming droughts from their end, and which also led to gaming droughts from the third parties, and the Switch just like it just died, right? Like, not the Switch, the Wii U. Sorry, the Wii U just died. Okay, let me correct all of that. The Wii U. I was talking about the Wii U just a moment ago. Yeah, the Wii U just didn't have any momentum going. Like, it was destined to fail, and Nintendo did a very, very bad job handling the Wii U. They never recovered from it. But then you come to the Switch, and despite all that, the Switch with its premise, right? It had also other negatives. It only had 32 gigs of storage, right? Everybody complained about that. I remember that everybody was like, could it be at the very least like 1 terabyte or something? Well, I don't know if it was like that high, right? But many people thought it was a joke that you only had 32 gigabytes. But it turns out it wasn't a bad idea, and I'll explain in just a moment. And they went back to cartridges, which is something that was seen as outdated. But if you think about it, that complaint kind of didn't really make sense because they were doing it was clear that they were doing a handheld hybrid. This is something that many people basically already knew by the time it was going to be announced. and people still thought that it was just like a bad idea. But no, it wasn't. It helps with the form factor. Carrying a bunch of CDs, or Blu-rays or whatever. It's just not. It's just not. It's not it. It's how people say it. And yeah, those were like the main things that everybody was complaining about, even though they didn't realize that, like, yes, cartridges were the downfall of the 64 back then, but a lot of years have happened back like since then. It's been a long time. Cartridges have gotten a lot better, and cartridges do have advantages over Blu-rays, and we've seen them, right? I already said the form factor, right? But also the fact that they are much better with loading times, and this is something that I want to really talk about is these things actually really helped us, and we don't appreciate them. The fact that the Switch launched with very little storage space, but also with cartridges, forced developers to actually optimize their games and to not be storage gluttons, right? They actually force them to not make games that eat out our storage, which is something that we're all complaining, right? Like, we're all complaining about the fact that games just are just they just have higher fidelity from like 360 games, and yet for some reason they're like 100 gigabytes, and we're all so tired of like a game simply not respecting our storage space. And we all know this is bullshit. Let's be real. We don't build. None of us actually buy the fact that that game actually has 200 gigabytes of value. No, we don't. We don't believe that. And the Switch, I believe that the biggest game on the Switch is like 33 gigabytes, and I think it's The Witcher 3. I mean, imagine, like, compared to your average game on the Series X, on the PS5, on the even the PS4, right? That they're like 70 gigabytes and above. It's crazy. And like I said, if it was like 70 gigabytes of quality, like, we wouldn't be complaining. But I don't really think we are seeing that. There's a whole conspiracy that this is done so that you don't have enough space for other games, so that you only play that stupid live service game. But that's a different topic. And so the fact that we went back to cartridges, another thing is that it allowed us to keep alive plug and play. Here's the reality, guys. The Switch, and hopefully the Switch 2 as well, will be the only consoles where it's actually worth owning physical media. Because here's the thing, Microsoft and Sony have been trying to get away from physical media by basically making your Blu-ray just an install disc for the game. You cannot even plug and play the games. You have to plug them, and then you have to install the game so that you're able to play it. And in other cases, like Halo Infinite, you still have to download shit so that you're able to play a certain section of the game. So they just want a physical media to be dead, but not with the Switch. With the Switch, you buy the game, you plug it in, and you can play it, and that's it. I mean, sure, you may have like 1 day patches, but let's be real, guys. We have had that since the 360. Let's stop pretending that it bothers us. It's usually like a minor bug patch most of the time. But anyways, even then, like in the Switch, you can still play it if you choose to. And this is something that, I just get really frustrated. I get really frustrated that I buy a disc and I have to install a game. But Nintendo gets it. And that's why I'm hopeful, and the Switch 2 will be the last console where I'll actually try to own physical media on if there's a Switch 3. So here's also what I wanted to talk about is the graphics, right? Now, I'm just going to make this clear. Graphics do matter, right? And people say, no, it's not graphic, this is art style. No, 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 no. Like, even to make your art style come to fruition, you just need graphics. Let's stop pretending that graphics doesn't matter. I am so tired of this pseudo-intellectualism of like gamers that want to feel as more substantial than other gamers because they don't care about graphics. No, you're not a more important gamer. You're not a smarter gamer because you don't care about graphics. Shut the fuck up. Graphics matter. And here's the thing, it's also like a lie. Everybody cares about graphics. It's like, have you ever seen like a review of a game from like the 360, maybe even like the PS2 or whatever? And they talk about why this game was very like revolutionary. This game was very good. It was very fun, right? And 99% of the time, if the game had good graphics for its time, they will mention it. They will mention it. Like, for example, Kirby's Adventure is like a game on the NES that is looks very good for the NES. And if somebody is actually making a review of games, Kirby's Adventure, which is the only good NES game, if you disagree, you're wrong. They're gonna mention the fact that that game has really good graphics for the NES. I remember I saw Legendary Drops talking about Ubisoft games, and they talk about, I believe, Assassin's Creed 1. He talked about that, and he mentioned how the game had very good graphics at the time, and how Ubisoft used to have very good graphics for the games at the time. So no, let's stop pretending that we don't care about graphics. You're not a smarter, more substantial gamer because you don't care. Okay. So that being said, graphics matter, but they don't matter to the extent that I think like we're seeing it. They don't matter, 50 gigabytes of 4K textures, type of thing. They don't matter that much. Let's be real. So, but here's the thing. Where is it that I want to get at? Okay. Remember that I mentioned that each generation, the generation jumps are getting smaller, right? Here's the thing. What it takes to jump from a generation is, and the cost, the hardware, the sheer power is like this, and then it's like this, and then it's like this, and it's like this. But the actual jumps that you see on the game, they're like this, and this. They're getting smaller, right? They cost even more, but their reward is much smaller. Because think about it, technically speaking, the jump from the NES to the Super Nintendo in terms of like technicality, cost, and everything, right? It's much smaller than the one we have from the PS4 to the PS5, right? Like yeah, it was like 8-bit to just 16-bit, literally twice a bit. But here's the thing, that make a tons of difference. I mean, just look at like the difference between an NES game to a Super Nintendo game. And here's the thing, we know they look different, and we don't have to look at fucking screenshots or footage next to, side by side to know that they look better, right? Like we can remember it by memory, right? Same thing from like the N64 through, to the, PS2 or whatever, the GameCube, right? Like we know that they look better. Like we don't need a reference. Then from the 360 to the Xbox One, okay, that's where we kind of started to need references, right? Like we needed to see, okay, so this is the Xbox One version, this is the 360 version, right? PS3 version and 360 and PS4 version. Okay, so last generation we started to see that the generation jumps are getting smaller, right? But also like you see like now we have like before is like having a hard drive of like remember when having a hard drive of 200 gigabytes was like a lot, right? And now that's a fucking joke. Like it's an absolute fucking joke having a hard drive about that. And yet the graphical, the actual how better games look, it's only gotten like this much better, but the file size of our games have gotten like this, but not with Nintendo. And you know what Nintendo's looking at? Nintendo has realized something, right? They realize that graphics don't matter, but not because, it's like, no, because a real gamer cares about gameplay. No, not because of that. Of course, that's more important, right? But the reason they realize that graphics don't matter is because they realize that, you know what? What's the point of us selling our systems at a loss if in the future we're going to be able to achieve the same graphics anyway? I don't know who said this. I think it was Iwata, right? I'm gonna see if I can find that article and put it on the screen or whatever. But the thing is, like the race, for graphics is a dead end. Like the goal is just a dead end because eventually, like graphics are just gonna plateau so hard that what even is the point of trying to invest on graphics? Like, yes, right now the PS5 is gonna be very ahead of the Switch too, but think about it, it's really not by that much. I mean, is the PS5 really that much stronger from the Series S or even the PS4 Pro? I don't really think many people feel that way. I mean, and hey, here's the thing: devs probably don't even feel that way either because they keep making games for the PS4. yeah, they keep making games for the PS4 5 years into the PS5's existence. So what's the point of pushing generational boundaries in games? I feel like every game that you want to make is pretty much possible to make at this point. You can make it as pretty as you want. You can make it look exactly like you want, basically. So just think about it. If like next the Switch 3 is probably gonna be over. Like the console war is gonna be permanently over, and Nintendo is gonna have, it's just gonna take the crown back. At the end of the day, Nintendo had the foresight that they to see that at the end, like, yeah, like graphics do matter, but there's no reason to rush it because eventually it's just a dead end. So whether we go walking or running, we're just gonna get there. Like we're all gonna get there. So what's the point of selling this console at a loss? What's the point of investing like billions of dollars on trying to push the graphical boundaries? I mean, if at the end games look so good that they basically look like real footage like me, but all of us are gonna get there, is there any reason to push it ourselves? No. And you know what the best thing is that Sony and Microsoft push it for them, so they don't even have to like invest on that. And yeah, the Switch 2 is just gonna come here. It's gonna dominate. I think the worst case scenario is that it's gonna be a DS to 3DS situation where maybe it will struggle to get games. But here's the thing: the Switch 2 has crazy momentum. People are so excited for it, and I'm gonna promise you that shit's gonna get scalped. Like they're gonna scalp the fuck out of the Switch 2, and that alone is gonna create excitement for the Switch 2, which is gonna get people to want the Switch 2 even more, right? Nobody scalped the Wii U. Actually, I don't remember, but I assume that nobody scalped the Wii U because I don't remember that. But the Wii got scalped. Imagine. So yeah, it's gonna. I'm pretty sure the Switch 2 is gonna be a massive success. Like the moment people see that they have a Switch 2, they're like, "Oh, where do you get that? Oh, yeah." And now Nintendo's gonna be missing out in even less third-party games, right? I mean, SNK mentioned that they wanted to bring, Kino Fighters to, the Switch, but it was very difficult because for some, like the hardware just had, for some reason the three character, like 3v3 characters just didn't work very well. I don't know. Maybe it sounds like something that SNK just couldn't do, but basically, and you know what? Third-party characters are probably going to be excited about the fact that they're going to be able to put even more games on Nintendo systems. Like everybody's excited about like the Switch 2. That includes developers. Nobody was excited to make games for the Wii U. Everybody's excited to make games for the Switch 2 because now you're going to be able to put like, for example, me as a fighting game fan, as an SNK fan, I'm going to be able to play KO 15. I mean, they say that maybe KO 14 on the Switch. I'm going to be able to play City of the Wolves on the Switch. And this is something that, believe it or not, is a big factor of why the Switch sells so much. It's not just the fact that people are like Nintendo fanboys and they just want to like worship Nintendo, but it's because there's a legitimate convenience on having a Switch that just feels unmatched to any other system. Street Fighter 6 is gonna come to the Switch for sure. I don't know about Tekken 8. There's probably like shooters are probably finally gonna come back to the Switch, and that may be due to the mouse feature of the Joy Cons, right? Oh, imagine RTS coming to the Switch, man. Imagine like Age of Empires, yeah, coming to the Switch, man. That would be insane. Damn. Okay, so that's it. That's gonna be all for the video. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys later.